Okay, this is the Planning and Land Use Committee, Tuesday, May 6, 2014, Board of Public Works, Roy Ball Hearing Room, 350, 2:40 p.m. Councilmember Huizar is unavailable because of personal matters. I am Councilmember Gil Cedillo, joined by my colleague, Councilmember Mitchell Englander. We have a modest agenda that should take us no more than 10 to 20 minutes max, and I am ready to proceed with items 1 and 2, which are commission appointments. Item 1 is a appointee to the Cultural Heritage Commission, Mr. Jeremy Irvine. May we hear from you, please?
Hello. Thank you for asking me here today. First of all, I want to say that I am honored to be appointed to the Cultural Heritage Commission and have the opportunity to serve my city. I've been a resident of Los Angeles for over 15 years. I earned a bachelor's degree in architecture from Woodbury University in Burbank, and I have since worked in several architecture and interior design firms in and around Los Angeles. I also recently started my own interior design business. Living and working in Los Angeles, thank you. Living and working in Los Angeles and working specifically in the built environment has given me a deep appreciation for what our city has to offer. And this is going to be my way of giving back and sharing those gems that have inspired me. I also have a great deal of pride for my home state of California and the legacy and contributions that my family have made here. My great-great-grandfather came to San Francisco in 1848 and bought the land that later became the Irvine Ranch. My great-grandfather started the James Irvine Foundation and the Irvine Company, and my grandfather created a master plan for the Irvine Ranch that was one of the first, is still one of the largest, and is still being implemented today. I look forward to working with the staff and the other commissioners and members of the community on monuments and proposed monuments as they come before the commission. The near completion of Survey LA gives us an exciting moment in the history of, in historic preservation for the city of Los Angeles, because we'll have the opportunity to consider monuments before they're considered by the wrecking ball. This makes the job of preservationists more proactive and less reactive. With my background in interior design, I also hope to bring a whole building perspective to the commission, so that rather than just considering the exterior of buildings, we can consider the three-dimensional experience of buildings and preserve and bring attention to some of the really great interiors of our city, like the one that we're in right now. At the same time, I don't believe that our cultural resources need to be frozen in time. The best way to preserve a building is to make it indispensable to its users by thoughtfully modernizing it and keeping it up to date. And that's all I have to say, and I want to thank you again for your time and the opportunity to serve the city of Los Angeles.
Yeah, man, I could not agree with you more about the best way to preserve is to make them relevant and useful today. I think we have almost a kind of petting zoo approach to much of our historical landscape, and we need to integrate that into our realities of today and the future. And so I couldn't agree with you more. That's a discussion as much about cultural heritage as it is about economic development, and one that
Absolutely, yes.
I'd be very interested in having with you. I thank you for your commitment to service, and thank your family for their philanthropy and their commitment to Southern California. And I think the mayor's made an excellent choice. We'd be happy to have you serve. Mr. Englander?
I too will echo those comments, and it's refreshing to bring somebody with a different perspective and somebody yet though with a background and experience in education and a history with cultural preservation and repurposing and looking at, while preserving those characteristics of our communities and those properties, also looking at the ability to ensure that we're using those as well and repurposing them. to maintain that character and your family's history as well as yours, and you stand on your own, is really impressive. And so you're exactly the type of candidate, quite frankly, to a lot of these commissions that I look for, as somebody that hasn't just been recirculated from commission to commission or has a political interest, but somebody has a deep desire and interest in the actual commission that they're going to be serving on and bring some experience and a perspective. And so I'm enthusiastically there to support you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You're offering a motion?
Oh, yeah, so I'll make a motion that
Second it. So be the order. Mr. Christopher Arellano. Good to see you again.
Hello there. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Councilmember Cedillo and Councilmember Eglander. My name is Christopher Arellano. I'm a resident of CD1. I've lived in this community for about 22 years, Echo Park for 10 years, Lincoln Heights for 10. I was a founding member of the Echo Park Neighborhood Council and also a member of the Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council. So I know the area and the district pretty well. My day job is a union organizer with United Teachers Los Angeles. So I currently serve in that capacity, serving the schools of East Los Angeles as well. I think it gives me a unique perspective to hear the issues of the teachers, the students, and the parents, and the communities, and also the other stakeholders. So I'm really honored to be appointed to this commission. I really look forward to working with you, Mr. Cedillo, and also with the Plum.
I'm just trying to figure out what you are.
What I am?
Yeah, because it says here that you went to Pepperdine, USC, and UCLA.
Well, I was
So,
a Brogan
are
and
you
a
Bruin?
Truan.
Are you a Trojan? Let's get it on the record.
Well, until I get my doctorate, I'm not going to put Pepperdine down, but I'm a Bruin, a Brogan and a Trojan, I think they call them. I'm not sure. Yeah, I loved UCLA. I love my Bruin.
Know. You've got degrees from every university. You've got to go to CSUN now. We've got to bring you out to the
I
valley.
did go to CSUN, but
Of course.
I just didn't enroll. I've actually attended all the community colleges. I went to LACC, Pasadena City College, and also Santa Monica City College. So,
You've got more degrees than our current weather. It's pretty impressive, actually. Wait, I'm still thumbing through all the degrees
okay.
here. It's pages and pages. You've been very involved and know the city well. And I understand you also had some background in doing field work in a council office as well.
I do, yes.
From a council member who we remember on the council, who was near and dear to our heart, our current mayor.
Yes. I was a field deputy for Echo Park and Elysian Valley in the first term for Garcetti.
It's great. I mean, you got experience, certainly an incredible education background. That's we're going to really have to nail down the true colors, though, of which school you went to. You're not even showing it off with your tie. You've got a multicolored tie. Those are more UCLA colors, though. So
Yeah. Well, I haven't bought a USC or a Bruin skinny tie. I don't know if they sell them.
Well, it's pretty. You have a pretty impressive background.
Thank you.
In everything that you've done, actually. And so, again, I applaud the mayor in finding people willing to volunteer and serve that are qualified and experienced and knowledgeable and educated in these functions. So, you've certainly got my support, and therefore make a recommendation to support the mayor's recommendation.
Awesome. I note that four of the commission members are out of CD 14. I'm not sure if that's because the lines have changed, and you are the sole representative for 1, 13, and 4, I believe, in the eastern part. So I trust that your hefty academic background, and particularly your organizational leadership studies, will be utilized in those efforts.
Yes, sir. I hope so. Thank you.
Okay. Motion? Second. So be the order. Congratulations.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Cedillo and Councilmember Englander. Look forward to meeting with you and working with the city issues with y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 3 has been withdrawn. I don't think so.
It is to receive and file in as much as the nominee withdrew.
Okay, so a motion, therefore, to receive and file.
So moved. So be the order. Item 4 is... Item 4. All these cards on 4?
Yes, sir.
Okay, everybody's got a lot to say here. Okay, we have a motion instructing the Department of City Planning to initiate the proceedings for a general plan amendment and zone change from industrial to open space for the parcels located at 8101 through 8271 North Tahunga Avenue and 11501 through 11551 West Strathern Street in Sun Valley. Is that it? Okay, we CD7 here. I thought Ms. I know him. Mr. Padilla, we're Amish here.
Good afternoon, council members. We'd be happy to go following community and anybody else who's submitted public comment. We'd be happy to give our remarks right after that.
Okay. Let's go through public comment. Opposing the proposal, we have Kubi Kono. Yes,
Good evening. My name is Jeff Ferrano. I'm with same company as Kubi is, if
Jeff.
you wouldn't mind.
I didn't call you, though. I called Kubi.
Yes.
Is Kubi coming up? Don't go far, Jeff. You're next.
My name is Kubi Carl, and I operate 2 companies in Sun Valley for SA Recycling. We are in the recycling business, and actually we are on the front of the street, the other side of the street, but we missed the session. I think it was last month. That's why we are here. He's gonna give you the background. Jeff is our corporate attorney, but I just want to give you the perspective about our businesses, and then to give you a better perspective of what we're doing. And we have in Tahunga facility, we have 26 employees total in Sun Valley. I have more than 60 employees. And we are thinking to put some future investment on our business in Tahunga. And this plan changing it's gonna it's gonna change our investment in our businesses. I just want to give you guys an information about our numbers, how much generate for the local community. And last fiscal years, and our total payroll, it was $1 million, $997,000. And our employees, mainly from East LA and the Sun Valley area, we hire those people. And from sales, $1.7 million we generate. And this project, if it's going to move on, and this really, it's going to put our future investments in danger. And just we want to make a point here. And Jeff is going to give you the details, but
I'm going to bring Jeff up now, Kubi, okay?
Thank
you. So they're going to take them into open space. We'll bring them to the east side. We'll split the endeavors. Yes, Jeff. What's your last name, sir?
Ferrano.
Okay. Zafrano.
Apologize, I have bad handwriting.
I think the pen. Are you left-handed?
Yes, I am.
You are. I can tell that.
Very nice. So thank you. We're left-handed people are in their right mind, is what I'm
That's
told.
right.
Okay. My name is Jeff Ferrano. I'm with SA Recycling. We are the largest scrap metal recycler on the West Coast. We have approximately 50 facilities in California, Arizona, and Nevada. And what we do is we buy scrap metal for recycling purposes. We are located at this facility at 8250, which is on the other side of the street of Tahunga of the matter that's before you today, but it was a subject of the motion April 2nd, where the zoning matter was decided to move forward rezoning of the land where our property is from industrial to open space. We've been on this facility now since for approximately 10 years, but before that time, a recycling facility has been on this property for over 50 years. We've been servicing the residential and industrial properties in Sun Valley for other 50 years, recovering scrap metal, etc. And this rezoning basically will take away our ability to continue to operate on this facility, eliminating, as Kubi says, approximately 15 jobs, $1 million worth of payroll, and the ability of the local people to recycle their facilities on this at this recycling facility. So we would oppose the rezoning of this property.
Jeff, let me be clear. You had mentioned you were across the street. Are you within this rezoning, or are you just on the perimeter?
This rezoning is dealing with approximately 7 acres on the other side of Tahunga. We are on the east side of Tahunga. That rezoning, which is all dealing with the same park and same concept of rezoning this entire area into open space. This came before you on April 2nd. That property is already starting the same process. It's all going to be considered together. And we didn't know about the rezoning effort on April 2nd. We found out about it several days later.
Sure.
So we're not opposing rezoning everything. The wetlands, it's fine. But our industrial property, which is next door to the wetlands, we are opposing that. There's no reason to include us with the wetlands rezoning. We are an existing business. We want to stay in business. And I think we're a benefit for the city and provide jobs.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay. Richard Vicenio.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Richard Vicencio. I'm a purchaser for SA Recycling. I've been in the recycling business for over 25 years. I joined SA 3 years ago. Basically, my job is to purchase. And one thing I want to touch is basically the businesses that have grown around our area that depend on us. It's been important. There's a lot of recycling businesses, auto dismantling businesses that produce scrap, and we've led the way pretty much on how to dispose of some of the scrap that just can't hit certain landfills and that kind of situation, so we help them with that. Since 2009, where the prices went down, a lot of businesses suffered. We stepped in to show them how to process their material a little bit better, which has helped jobs, in my opinion, in that area. And right now, in the 3rd year, I think we've made a huge impact on helping those businesses stay afloat and basically continue to help the community and keep jobs in that area. And that's my main focus right now, to keep with that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Eddie Venegas.
Good afternoon. My name's Eddie Venegas. I'm the current manager there, yard manager or yard supervisor of SA Recycling, Tahunga. My main duties there is we have 26 employees. I manage everything from the ferrous to non-ferrous yard. We go ahead and we do scheduling, give opportunities to even individuals that are in the community, younger individuals like myself. A lot of people don't have any high school education or didn't finish high school. We also cater to people that do have college degrees there too as well. So it's a diversity of multiple people coming together, and it's given me a great opportunity. I used to be in the wheel and tire business since the economy recession hit in 2005. I ended up going ahead and getting a small part in SA Recycling, and been there for 3 years. And started off as just a weighmaster, someone that just kind of punches numbers on the computer, and from there they gave me the opportunity to become a manager, which is great. It's flourished. It's been wonderful for me. I have 2 children and a wife, and I really see SA Recycling expanding and growing, and it'll be very detrimental to the zoning area if we can't expand and give other gentlemen like myself opportunity too as well. So,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
George Tavares.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is George Tavares. I'm an industrial real estate broker with Trinity Partners, and I represent a number of businesses that work on this property as well as the Sun Valley area. By the way of reference, just to give you a little background, 42-year resident of the San Fernando Valley. I was lucky enough to serve as the president of the North Valley Area Planning Commission under Reardon, Hahn, and Villaraigosa. I've spent a lot of time in the San Fernando Valley. This is my backyard. going from open space, or from industrial to open space, and finding out about this yesterday, I'm still befuddled. I don't even know what to say. I don't know how to effectively communicate to you. This can't happen. City resources cannot be spent to take away industrial land. We are the tightest market in the country. We have the least amount of industrial land. We are, per square foot, the most expensive. Sun Valley, while might be looked down upon, I consider it Beverly Hills. This is where all the jobs are. I can't take this away. I oppose the motion and ask that you support me. Thank you.
And what's the impact of the rezoning?
Well, taking it from industrial, what we have is M2 and M1 zoned land, so they are the two of the heaviest industrial lands to open space. It basically takes away all the businesses. I can't put anyone out there. So I don't know what I could put out there. Yep, thank you.
We'll hear from the council district. Eric Semerjian? How are you, sir?
Hello, my name is Eric Semerjian. I've been in Sun Valley for over 30 years. I've been in the trucking industry since I was 17 years old. I run a trucking company for over 14 years. Right now, I run with my brother approximately 3 truck yards in the area. The truckers cannot park on the street. Anything over 6,000 pounds have to be on industrial land overnight. When they come back from their trips, they park in our facilities safe. We have security, and we accommodate them as far as minor repairs and all that. If we have combined over 600 or 700 trucks on our facilities, if you guys take this land away, turn all these trucks away, where are they gonna go? They can't be on the street. And basically you can't park the commercial vehicles anywhere else but M1 or M2. So I oppose. Thank you.
Okay. Robert McAllister?
This property has been zoned industrial for over 60 years. There's a correction in the motion. This thing, you're actually taking away 70 acres of industrial zoned M1 and M2 zone land and down zoning it to open space. Obviously, this is against the mayor's idea for a business-friendly city. It's also taking away approximately 300 jobs right now and potentially 900 jobs in the future with the truck parking and other industrial uses. I represent the property owner. Our company has owned this property for since the 1960s. It's been industrial space. It needs to remain industrial space. And I want to clarify the city file 14-0056 is also taking about 20 acres of land and downzoning M3 zone land and M2 to open space. Obviously, we object, but we are willing to negotiate with the city council, local council office, as well as the planning committee.
You made reference to another agenda item, 14? No? File. Okay. John Peterson.
Good afternoon. I'm John Peterson. I'm an attorney for Penrose LLC. My client just spoke. The reference that Mr. McAllister just made was Council File 14-0056, which deals with the property to the east of Tahunga. In any event, unlike the recitals in your motion, this is a 70-acre parcel, not a 10-acre parcel. It's planning that shouldn't happen this way. You're taking industrial property, turning it into open space. Aside from the takings issues that get presented, which would be dealt with a different day, it's just not right for the neighborhood. It's just not right for the area. It's just not right for business. The neighborhood concerns, the council person's concerns, and my client's property interests could be reconciled through discussion. But going ahead and unilaterally adopting a motion to have planning go and downzone the property is not the right way to do this, and we urge this Plum Committee to defer this until further activity and further investigation can be made. I submitted a letter yesterday, May 5, 2014, from Peterson Law Group. I would like acknowledgement that my letter is part of the record, please.
Sir, it's part of the record.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You raised it, you said something that this matter could be resolved. That there's some taking issues, but that separate from this forum, it appears that the critiques are that we've maybe, by design of our committees or our structure or process, that some elements are ahead of schedule of the type of substantive discussion you made reference to. Yes,
and thank you for asking the question. The premise of this motion in the recitals is that the Strathern project going on across the street is somehow a basis to downzone everything. We litigated with the county flood control district that taking, and in fact, in the settlement agreements, the county specifically excluded from the project everything around the property, meaning the project for the Strathern flood project, basically, was limited to the part taken, and it was specifically provided that anything to the north, anything to the west, if it's impacted, would give rise to an inverse condemnation action. So now for this proposition and the recitals in this motion, because of the Strathern project as a basis to downzone everything, it just isn't consistent with what the litigation was with county flood control, and it really is improperly premised. So we would urge this committee to defer action and refer it to discussion with my client. My client is very open to discussing with the council office how this property could be appropriately used. So, thank you.
Thank you. Jim Dantona, or let me see, no, not yet. Mike O'Gara. Mike O'Gara.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike O'Gara. I'm a member of the Sun Valley Area Neighborhood Council. I'm not speaking for them. I'm speaking as an individual. This came up at the last minute, and we haven't had time to agendize it. I'm speaking for the project. I believe this should be open space. We're going to have a park now there, and we're across the street from that, where they're talking about this commercial property. Originally, that was a landfill. When it was filled, it was supposed to be turned into a golf course. That never happened. Instead of turning it into a golf course, it was turned into a driving range. And repeatedly over the years, there's different commercial enterprises that have tried to come into that place and shouldn't have been there. It's right across the street from a school, and I urge that you push this project forward and turn this into open space. Thank you.
Padilla.
Is that the final card, Mr. Chair? Is that the final card, Mr. Chair? Yes, sir. Great. So we're just here to ask the committee to support moving the item forward to council. A few reasons why the councilwoman presented the motion and is asking for your support. The effect of this action, ideally, is to clarify the appropriate land use at this site here in Sun Valley. It'll clarify both for city staff as well as area residents and local businesses, provide them a clear reference of what's allowable on the site. And it'll help staff at the planning and building and safety counters when they're receiving requests for permits and so on. And I want to remind everybody that this motion, if approved by the council, simply starts the thorough vetting process that would need to take place with the City Planning Commission and, again, with City Council after the fact. So the council's adoption of this motion does not immediately change the zone. It simply initiates the entire process that we have established.
Oh, right, so the language of the motion is to initiate, right?
It's instructing the department.
The length of that process?
I think we'd have to work closely with our City Planning Department and the appropriate agencies within the city to move that forward. Don't have a time.
A month, a year, 10 years, 100 years?
We'd love for it to be within the next couple of weeks. I think the realities of the staffing challenges at the department may require a little bit more time, but we want to get that started sooner rather than later.
I'm confused because I hear people talk about many years of experience at these sites. I heard someone say 60 years of experience. If that's the case, it seems to me that it's an interesting discussion to say that it needs to be clarified if the use.
Certainly.
was,
So if I could
so
speak
distinct.
to why there needs to be a clarification. And to understand why there is a need for clarification, you need to understand the part of the history that wasn't discussed in council today, in committee today. Looking back to 1979, the city authorized the use of the former Penrose landfill, which is this area here, for some continued landfilling and rubbish disposal. That was for a 3-year approval. With that, part of that city action indicated one of the conditions was that upon completion of that operation, the property be restricted to a golf course or other recreational facility, and that any alternate uses be designed to include a park-like setting, attractive and non-offensive to neighboring properties. That's in 1979. In 1982, the city then again granted another 3-year use for landfilling and rubbish disposal, but reiterated the same original condition of creating the open space recreational use on site. And in 1997, the ZA issued a clarification letter on what recreational uses could look like for the site. So while the site has been zoned for industrial for a number of years, there is at least a 30-year history, if not more, of the intended use of that site, which was open space recreational use. So the motion today to change the zone would simply provide the city clarification and city staff necessary clarification so that any future permit requests or land use requests are consistent with the vision that was established back then, both by the community and by the city. So that's why we're asking for your support to move the item forward today.
So we move the item forward. It doesn't preclude the discussions that the council had raised. Actually creates the forum for. Oh, yes, please.
Terry Kaufman, Macias, City Attorney's Office. Thank you. I just wanted to let the committee know that we received the letter from Mr. Peterson today.
Yes.
So there are issues that were raised, and City Attorney's Office will have to look into those matters because this is a factually intensive issue, and we'll just have to analyze it and then advise accordingly.
You won't be impaired by us moving this forward, though, right?
No. We could take time and do the analysis first, but there's no reason why you can't go forward.
Right. So we can move this for the councilwoman and then would not preclude guidance from the city attorney and the discussions that were raised by council.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Just ask for your support, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
I get a couple.
Sure.
Let me just ask a couple questions. I have some incredibly serious reservations about ever converting anywhere M-zone to anything other than M-zone for many of the reasons that Mr. Savaris mentioned earlier. I started working on a working group about 10 years ago and helped co-author what officially became a position of the city in a white paper to preserve M-zone properties. It started off with a look at where we were losing light industrial manufacturing jobs and the job housing balance and looking at M-zone properties. And further expanded to the fact that and looked at from one specific area, particularly the Northwoods Chatsworth Industrial Corridor, which has now become the largest M-zone sort of base and that's contiguous in the city, since we were losing a lot in other areas, particularly downtown, as that was being gentrified, converted, and repurposed. And took some strong positions back then of seriously having any reservation of ever looking at conversion. That doesn't mean, though, never converting a single property. Every single property has to be taken into consideration on its the face of the history of that specific parcel, the area surrounding it. All those other issues are very sensitive that have to be looked at cautiously and carefully. This property and the little research that I've had time to really do is incredibly complicated. There's a lot of history at this site. There's a lot of different piecemeal issues. So it was a used to be a landfill, closed landfill. There are environmental concerns and issues that I don't know have been asked or answered and addressed. I also take it very seriously that a council member in their own district has the community's best interest at heart, both the local community as well as the business community. And with no exception, in fact, one that has done a phenomenal job is Ms. Martinez, who knows her district extremely well. And so while we may proceed as a next step, if you will, for discussion purposes and getting everybody together to look at what makes sense and moving this forward for that purpose and asking the city attorney to further look at all of those details and some of the issues that have been raised, I think are critically important, particularly since it was mentioned earlier on the record of possible taking issues. I think all those things have to be vetted. And I support a working group of the council office and the community to do that and taking all those factors into consideration. I just thought it was incredibly important to put on the record that I support moving this forward as a next step for those discussions to take place, but not just supporting it without speaking up and sharing, I won't say my concern, but my opinion and history and philosophy on ensuring that we always protect M zones first and foremost. But there are always other issues. Every property has a history. Every other property has, and project is very specific to that area and has to be considered from that perspective. And so I recognize that as well and have the utmost confidence and respect for the council office as well as Mr. Padilla, who I've worked with for many years, and know that his heart's always in the right place and understands these issues well. So you've got my support. But I just wanted to verbalize all that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So moved, second, so be the order.
You will adopt the motion, Councilman.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Motion Englander, second, Cedillo. So be the order. Next item. We have a consent calendar. Consent calendars of item 5, 10, 11, and 12. Cards on 5. Somebody wants to speak on a consent item?
Yeah.
Mr. O'Gara, you're up on item 5. You know the item is for consent, sir.
Again, my name is Mike O'Gara. I'm with the Sun Valley area. I'm a member of the Sun Valley Area Neighborhood Council. I'm speaking as an individual because these items come up at the last minute. We were not able to agendize them. This ordinance is very necessary in this area because we have a huge rate of prostitution going up and down Lancashire Boulevard. We have all kinds of different things that happen along with prostitution. Our prostitution problem has evolved to human trafficking, and recently a lot of the prostitutes are underage. They're under the age of 16. So now we're into child molesting. So as some of these businesses open up, they bring more of an element in there that would use prostitutes, for lack of better language. And we would like our council member to have the right to get an interim control ordinance in this area. Thank you very much.
We favor that. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Motion to accept, and then motion to move items 10, 11, and 12 on consent.
Mr. Chair, 10 and 11 can go on consent if the committee chooses, but we just got a card on 12.
12. Okay. Mr. Ackley, I don't want to preclude you from speaking on this matter, but we are prepared to move it. I just want to be clear, people understand that when we say the item is up for consent, that then we're ready to move the item forward positively in the manner in which it's proposed, so that people,
So the motion, just to be clear, Councilman, is being adopted and will be referred to the council.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we're moving item 5. 3, okay. So now we've got,
Number 12, sir, because the committee approved 9 and 10. No, I'm sorry,
10 and 11.
10 and 11, yes.
Okay, so let's go, Mr. Watts. You have a concern to raise with us on item 12?
I didn't realize it was on the consent calendar. I support the action, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 12 is resolved. That leaves us now. Items 4 and 6. We did 6. We did 6 yet? Okay, we're holding item 6 for Mr. Fuentes to appear.
We're going to hold it for Fuentes, number 6.
Yes.
Because he's coming.
Stop that. 7 is yours. You want to go, and then you're going to leave me? Well, for sequence, and with your commitment not to abandon me, all right? You're fine. Go ahead. Item number 7 is
Item 7,
a motion by the esteemed council member Englander to instructing the city Department of City Planning to develop and issue guidelines for processing elder care facility unified permits, including acceptance of complete application for environmental review, analysis, and basis for approval or denial of projects.
Yes, so thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 7 was brought in. There's been an incredible and extensive outreach effort by the Planning Department, in fact, one that's probably unparalleled, starting, I believe, back in 2002, that finally adopted and accepted the Elder Care Ordinance, Ordinance 178063, that the idea was to create a streamlined approach for elder care properties throughout the city of Los Angeles, citywide. And it was finally adopted in 2006. It established a variety of new housing types and parking regulations. It streamlined the entitlement process for elder care facilities. And the idea was to address the critical housing needs for that growing segment of the population, which I fully support and had unanimous support. Since that, though, there's been a number of projects that have been proposed. In fact, I think the bulk of them in my district. Many of them have asked for, both from the developer themselves as well as the immediate community, surrounding community, and the neighborhood councils for some other guidelines that had to be updated that hadn't been updated yet, as a way to ensure an easier, smooth transition in the process, things to identify services that are nearby, for example, walkability issues, things that are intended to make sure that they comply with the surrounding community and they make sense as well. So planning has worked extensively, given the community outreach citywide that occurred, and going back to all of their notes as well from 2002 all the way up until now, to come up with a technical bulletin that, if you could walk us through what this will address. We have found that every project that has been proposed has been a brutal, contentious fight with the community, against the developers, as well as ending up in virtually every one of them in litigation that is taking extensive resources from the City of LA as well, and slowing down the process, not enabling more of these facilities. And so what this does is a technical bulletin will address those issues and cross the T's and dot the I's to ensure that they have a streamlined approach, that we can get this critical need in for housing, and that balanced approach to protect the community as well. So if you could address those, that would be great.
Sure. Good afternoon, council members. Oliver Netburn with Department of City Planning. So as the councilman has alluded to, the planning department has undertaken this technical bulletin, which we've developed over the last several months to address some of the concerns. First off, one of the major things was design compatibility. What the department found was that we have developed the citywide design guidelines, which are related to, in part, multiple family developments. Elder care facilities tend to be, in large part, multiple family developments, and so we didn't want to become duplicative in creating another set of design guidelines for elder care facilities, as they are essentially a multifamily housing development. One of the other issues that we found was that often the idea was that the elder care facility permit was to streamline the process. That wasn't necessarily to create a process by which the project wasn't, the applicant and the community and the city did not understand the deviations that may be being requested of. So while the application is still one permit process, the applicant will now be required to enumerate the number of deviations that they're requesting. So for example, density. There may be by right 5 units that are allowed. The applicant would be requesting 50 units. That'll be part of the hearing notice. Setbacks. If the applicant's requesting reduced setbacks, that would be part of the hearing notice. It would still all be under one application fee, one hearing, one process. So therefore continuing the streamlined purpose, but essentially allowing for there to be disclosure as to the type of request that's being made. In addition, some of the other things that we've asked for applicants now to provide to us is a number of amenities that are provided either on-site or within close proximity of the site. In some instances, you may be able to have an elder care facility which is large enough and can have a number of amenities on-site, a barber shop, a little grocery store, a gift market, something of that sort. But in other instances, the facility may be located in an area where those things are within 500 feet of the facility. So we've asked that the applicant provide to us what types of amenities are being provided to their residents, again, either on-site or off-site. The idea was that if you are in an area which has got enough commercial activity, maybe you don't need to have it on-site. But if you are in an area that is predominantly residential, you need to be able to provide those services on-site. And one of the one of the last items was CEQA analysis. These, as you alluded to, these projects tend to be in single-family type neighborhoods, and then bringing in something of a large scale may be in conflict with or cause impacts to those single-family neighborhoods. So we've now enhanced the types of environmental review that may be required. So if your building height exceeds what is allowed in that neighborhood, then you would be doing a shade shadow analysis. Or if you are encroaching within a setback that is adjacent to a single-family neighborhood or a single-family home, you would be doing a shade shadow analysis as well. Also, traffic analysis would also be required.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. And what we've seen is some of these proposed development projects will come in mid-block in a single-family zone that propose elder care, and really it's a sort of a McMansion, if you will, that have no services, that there's no shopping, there's no retail, there's no health care, there's no transportation, there's no bus systems, there's no public transportation, simply as a way for perhaps a developer to come in and just turn a buck and make a bigger project, although it's a critical need. But then right down the street where we have major corridors and thoroughfares where it makes sense, where there's public transportation systems, where there's a bus stop, where there's a means to get service or health care or shopping, that's not where they're building them or proposing perhaps. And so these technical amendments, and the courts have come back and basically shared this with us as well, and from different cases, saying you've got to update these technical amendments because we keep losing these. And I don't think one has successfully come through and been built under this ordinance and without any problems as intended since this was first developed in 2006. So this will fix, I think, a lot of those issues.
I just wanted to add, probably the most important purpose of the technical bulletin is to really gather a lot of factual information, basically in terms of existing conditions on the site and the neighborhood, and then also what is proposed. With those facts, that description of those conditions, and then what is proposed, that'll really enable the decision maker, the zoning administrator, to make the findings, either in the affirmative or the negative. Right now, what we have found is that there really has been a scarcity of information that we can rely upon to do the proper analysis of these kinds of projects. So by setting forth these application requirements from the get-go, it'll make the decision-making process much more smooth, and then it'll also allow the community to really understand the impacts of these projects much better than we have been able to so far.
So I believe are there speaker cards on this? I'll turn it over to the chair for that portion of the meeting.
Speaker cards on, we're at 6 or 7? Okay, we Mr. O'Gara, you're here to comment.
We had an elder care project in my neighborhood, which I opposed vehemently. My name is Mike O'Gara, and I'm from Sun Valley. I've lived there for 40 years. You talked about walkability. What about breathability? We okayed a elder care facility on the side of the Freeway 5 in Sun Valley, okay? It's 1,000 feet from the 170. It's 100 feet from Highway 5. Anything that's going to help clear up this mess. Many of these projects went through the appeal process. Ours did, and we lost the appeal, and the thing is right on a freeway. So I'd like to see that looked into and have some kind of restriction as to how close you can build this thing to a major highway. That's a major problem, and it's a CEQA problem, and this was approved. So thank you very much for doing whatever you can to lay down some rules. It would streamline as a joke.
Thank you. In fact, we had one of these a project proposed on an equestrian lot, a senior facility on a horse lot. So you start looking at those issues, and the considerations have never been part of the application process, and this will fix that, hopefully.
Okay.
So I ask, therefore, that we go ahead and move this on to council. It was already seconded by Mr. Huizar when we introduced it as well.
Excuse me. Terry Kaufman, Mesilla City Attorney's Office. The agenda says to instruct the department to develop and issue guidelines, so it could go to the department. The guidelines themselves aren't in front of you. It's just an instruction.
So
Alan Bell for the Planning Department. I just want to clarify for the record. We had been working very closely with the council office. We've already completed the guidelines. So the guidelines have been adopted, they are in force, and they are now part of our application requirements for unified elder care permits.
So we just have to now update the ordinance to reflect that?
Well, we have the administrative authority to require these kinds of additional information under our existing authority to make sure that we have complete applications.
So we would like to legislatively codify that, though. So
is that how we cure this? Codify it?
Well, you'd have to amend the motion if you want to do that. I haven't seen the guidelines. It's possible that may need to happen anyway, so.
Can we do
you
that?
can,
Can
you can instruct the department to look into that.
Can we instruct the department to bring those guidelines forward as part of the committee report and recommendation then for the council to adopt? And that would be the committee report?
The guidelines, the council doesn't adopt the guidelines, as I understand it.
So then it would be for the council to review and accept?
If you want to look into companion code amendments, you could instruct the department to come back and present any potential amendments that need to be done. That's an option.
Alternatively, Councilman, maybe the best thing to do is to refer this motion to the planning department and have planning provide you with the guidelines and reschedule the issue before Plum Committee.
Well, that's why I was asking if we've already got the guidelines and they've already written them and we have them, we can, and we've done this in other committees, bring the report would simply be the recommendation from this committee to bring those guidelines to council.
The only issue there, Councilman, is that those guidelines have not been vetted through this committee.
Right.
So maybe the cleanest way is to refer this motion again to planning, bring the guidelines to the committee, and hear it again.
We're half a step ahead anyway.
Exactly. I think
Well,
that.
it's just, I'm sorry, it's just the guidelines weren't part of this packet or anything, and the agenda says instruct them to
The guidelines,
adopt and implement guidelines. So it's
they're not before your
Yeah.
consideration today, Councilman, those guidelines.
Okay, and then
It's just a motion.
which is why I'm asking if the committee report can be reflective of sending this to council without voting on the guidelines themselves and instruct the department to bring those guidelines to council for consideration.
True, or the other way that you can approach it is to refer this motion to planning and then bring back those guidelines to this committee.
Why don't we do this? Refer the motion to planning
Yes,
and ask planning to bring it to the full city council.
yes, fine.
Okay.
You want this to go to council, huh?
Yes.
Okay. This is, let me see, permits including the acceptance of a
Very good.
I'm trying to see what we're trying to do. Already done that. We haven't seen them. So you don't want to see them here.
Right, that's what I'm telling you, it hasn't been vetted.
I understand that. That's a no. You don't want to see them? You don't want to see the guidelines here? Just no. So yes or no? No, okay. I'm just asking. Okay. So we're going to move these guidelines to council for council to take its action.
So again, the motion will be to instruct planning to develop the guidelines and bring, well, but they haven't done it before the committee, right? Develop the guidelines officially and bring them to council for consideration.
Right, and submit them to the clerk so they'll be in the record when they go
Correct.
to council.
Yes.
Chris Mudd?
Very good.
No, it's clear. I mean, I think what we'll do is we'll just formally transmit the guidelines to the council. Basically, it's an information item, and certainly we're very open to. We always saw this as a first step for addressing these ordinance issues. Certainly, there could be follow-up code amendments, but it's faster for us to adopt these kind of guidelines. We had so many applications, and then we can work further with the council office on considering some follow-up code amendments.
Okay. You good with that?
Yes, Councilman. So you're approving it and and the guidelines will be presented to the city council when the issue's before the council.
Okay. That is the motion.
Yes.
Second. So be the order. Okay. I saw Mr. Fuentes walk in. How are you, sir?
Doing well. How are you all?
Good. Good to see you. You are item
Number 6.
number 6. Okay, motion instructing Department of City Planning, Los Angeles Department of Building Safety, and Department of Animal Services to report on the establishment of standards to protect equine uses in non-K equine keeping districts and related matters. Easy for you to say. Go ahead, sir.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members, for allowing me to present on this motion today. Mr. Englander and I constantly wrestle about sort of who has the most equestrian-friendly, equestrian sort of enabled community in Los Angeles, and I think that oftentimes we probably both win in that category, but Council District 7 is very, very unique in that we have lots of large parcels and a lot of equestrians in our community, which is what makes it, I think, just as special as any other part of Los Angeles, and more so because of the rich traditions that we have with the equine community. A large majority of the single-family residences that we have in the district are zoned to allow equine uses, and as a result, we have a numerous commercial equestrian sort of capacity. There are a lot of facilities that help not just sort of keep the tradition, but also house these uses and horses for folks. And a large majority of property owners have at least one horse and accessory uses on their property. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of instances where a property owner with an existing horse, a corral and or barn on their property, they become automatically non-conforming due to the neighbor's use or addition of a habitable room on the neighboring property. So imagine that for a second. You are in compliance, you've got your equestrian use, and then a neighbor, by virtue of their construction of a space where folks, people can have rooms, all of a sudden you've knocked your neighbor out of compliance with the zoning code. Now, you would think that this doesn't happen, but it happens more often than not, and that's what brought me here today to introduce this motion. This has created a real tension with neighbors encroaching on the equine keeping rights granted by the zone, resulting in this now non-conforming property owner to file a discretionary review with the planning department if they wish to either expand their barn or corral. That has a significant cost, despite the fact that they were there first. But because these lots in the northeast San Fernando Valley and in Council District 7 are large lots, they appeal to buyers who may not be interested in this type of lifestyle. Typically, a new buyer in our communities will not preserve the equine rights and instead build much larger homes, not in character with the surrounding neighborhood, tennis courts, pools, and we're finding now beginning to participate in the feed-in tariff program and create solar farms, which is completely, in my opinion, sort of not with what the neighbors want to see. So as a result, the amenities that are built tend to be overbuilt in these designated equine zones and have, as I mentioned, an impact on the neighbors. Portions of the zoning code that address equine keeping properties, such as RA zone lots and properties with a designated K overlay, identified with a K as part of the zone designation, should be studied by the city to address these problems that are created by these new additions considered habitable rooms onto existing homes and new construction in these infill K overlay properties. So as a result, I've introduced this motion that is asking to look at the current regulations in place that are supposed to protect and preserve equine keeping lots and RA lots that allow for equine uses. I'm requesting that the Department of City Planning, with the assistance of the Department of Building and Safety and the Department of Animal Services, prepare a report within 30 days that includes the following. First, to establish standards to protect equine uses in non-K equine keeping districts. Second, to create a zoning information file with all of the property zoned RA suburban and within equine keeping districts, noting that the lots allow equine uses and should be given a closer level of review in the land use discretionary process, especially as it relates to the issuance of building permits, because that will then help notify people of the potential impact of that encroachment. And finally, to develop a uniform interpretation of the distance requirements between equine uses and adjoining dwelling units and provide clarification of existing procedures. So I'm asking for you all to look at that and help me sort of have the department's report back in 30 days so that we can preserve the equestrian keeping rights of the folks that want them and hopefully give some real specificity and certainty to the folks who are trying to build on their land so that we can resolve these situations. Thank you.
Okay. Let's go to public comment. Cesar Diaz is here for Mr. Blumenfield's office.
Good afternoon, Councilmember Cedillo and Councilmember Englander. Cesar Diaz with Councilmember Bob Blumenfield's office. We're just here to loan support to the Councilmember Fuentes' motion. While we have very small pockets RA, unlike the other districts that have a lot more equine use, it is still important for those houses that enjoy those rights, and we are constantly seeing those battles between neighbors and neighbors that unfortunately have the ability to lose their rights. So we're here to loan support of that motion. Thank you.
Juan Sandoval from the Equine Advisory Board.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm from the Los Angeles Equine Advisory Committee, and I'm just here to support the motion.
Okay. Lynn Brown. And then Lynn.
Thank you, Councilman Cedillo and Councilman Englander, for this opportunity to speak. I'm the Vice President of the Los Angeles Equine Advisory Committee, which is a city council created committee. I want to back up exactly what Councilman Fuentes said. The real problem is, and this is happening everywhere and it's been happening, and it's going to continue to happen with increasing urbanization and increasing population density. It's like people moving into the airport and then complaining about noise.
Yes.
About planes flying overhead. Well, people are in
or Dodger Stadium.
Right. So they're attracted to come to the rural area of, where they see all the horses and everything, but the first thing they do is tear down the barn, put in a swimming pool, and begin to complain about flies and dust. And put other people out of compliance. And whinnying. They don't like whinnying either. The Los Angeles Equine Advisory Committee is here to support Councilman Fuentes' motion. It's timely and much overdue. Our concern is to continue to protect the historic and valuable horsekeeping properties throughout the city of LA. Standards are needed in place to support the equine areas, in this case especially the San Fernando Valley. So thank you for this opportunity to speak and for letting me go over a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Jean Gilbert.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. I am the Council District 13 representative to the Los Angeles Equine Advisory Committee. I want to tell you how much we appreciate Councilmember Fuentes raising this motion. It's a critically important issue to the equestrian community and the community as a whole, and I totally and absolutely support it. Thank you again.
Thank you. Mary Kaufman. She wrote in.
Good afternoon, council members. Councilman Englander is very familiar with me as I'm his representative to the LA Equine Advisory Committee. I also serve on the Chatsworth Neighborhood Council. I'm chair of their equestrian committee, and I'm president of the Chatsworth Equestrian Club. I'm here speaking on behalf of the Equine Advisory Committee because I also sit on their subcommittee for building and safety and planning. And we fully support Councilman Fuentes' motion, and yes, it is long overdue. But we would also ask that when the reports are being made, that the Equine Advisory Committee be part of that, because we are in the process of trying to work with building and safety to get some of the coding changed. So that's the request that I would make. Thank you.
I have David De Pinto.
Good afternoon. My name is David DePinto. I'm speaking both as a resident of 10435 Maribel Avenue, Shadow Hills, and also as president of the Shadow Hills Property Owners Association. I've been asked by our board and our land use chairperson to express our support for the motion and to also express our appreciation to the Equine Advisory Committee that has helped proffer it. We also wanted to ask, and I don't know if this would confuse anything, but that we would like to see the motion address what we refer to as vacant infill K overlay property that is being built on for the first time. It's a similar situation where we're trying to prevent the loss on a case-by-case, property-by-property basis of equine properties. So what the language might include is that in a K overlay area, any subdivision, parcel map, lot split, lot line adjustment, construction on a vacant lot, or addition to an existing structure must retain the equine set aside. Right now, the language in the specific plan covers subdivisions, but it doesn't cover individual infill properties. So we just lost a property about a week or so ago on McBroom that had been vacant for a very long time. Someone proposed to build a home there. They were asked at the Planning Commission, will you preserve the horsekeeping rights? And her answer was, no, and I don't have to, and I won't. And so one by one, this checkerboard is happening with the equine properties in the area, and we'd love to suggest this as an addition. Thank you.
Okay. Melody Skinner.
Thank you for this opportunity. I am the victim of the zoning that we're discussing. I could not possibly go into this better than Councilman Fuentes, so I'm just going to say that I want to support his measure. I'm now non-conforming. I've had horses on that property since 1978. I'm a competitive rider. I'm a certified riding instructor. That is our lifestyle. I pay a lot of taxes for that property. I spend a lot of money at Red Barn. I would like the opportunity to stay there. There's a vacant lot behind me. As of a month ago, they built within 45 feet of my barn. My barn is 45 years old. If I want to try to get myself a building permit to now upgrade to a ring of steel or something like that, I've got a nightmare now I'm going to have to go through just to do that. So please address the issue according to Councilman Fuentes' suggestions. We need this. I don't want to move to Texas.
Melody Skinner.
Well, as Councilmember Fuentes said earlier, we often debate about who has the largest, most populated, and most friendly equestrian district. I will give in that he has more horses per license, although I don't know if all my horses are legal in my district. We don't discriminate horses. But I will say that mine are more friendly, just for the record. With that, these are issues that are absolutely near and dear to my heart. And I would not only enthusiastically support this, but go further and applaud Councilman Fuentes for not only beyond embracing the equestrian community as a frequent rider and friend of all the local equestrians, not just in his district, but mine as well, and citywide. He's been a voice of the horses, the horse whisperer. But with that, a true friend in protecting these properties and looking for all those details that are incredibly complicated. These happen all the time. And I wish we could just simply carve out the areas and say, okay, you can't do anything, period, on any property that falls within the boundaries of this maps unless it's horsekeeping, period. But it's as we've learned, it's not that simple. And every time we come up with a new fix, there's always another fix. So not only do I support this fix, but I'd take a step further and ask that we consider Mary's recommendation to include that planning work with the Equestrian Advisory Committee to fix some of those other loopholes when this comes back, as well as the gentleman from Sunland that came up with some of those other issues, so we can address those as well and come back so we're not coming back with different motions and different studies, but to incorporate every word verbatim in Councilmember Fuentes' suggested proposal, and then also take it further with what was suggested and work with the Equestrian Advisory Committees to ensure that we are a little more comprehensive and gather some of that information into it as well and come back with that. And that would be my friendly amendment. Sure. Since we are the friendly horse-keeping people in CD12.
Well, we've got no horses in my district, but a lot of potential riders. And it's an unfortunate situation when the law changes on you and now you find your status being changed through no fault of your own. I'll defer to the leadership of my colleague and we'll move this matter. Okay?
So to be clear, it'll be referred to planning, and a report back has been requested in 30 days, and we're adding the Equine Advisory Committee and also the issue of vacant infill properties.
Correct, and I think that might extend that 30-day period probably to 45 days, if that's reasonable, because I want to make sure that the voices are heard. Is that, or no? I mean, I don't know if 30, because if we're adding that element, it's 2 more weeks, but I want to make sure that if we could get the various equestrian communities together quickly to weigh in on this as well. I don't want to hold it up either, but I know planning is understaffed as well, so not that the 2 weeks, it's still 2 weeks is a little better, but if we could do that,
sure,
that'd be great.
That work for you, Mr. Fuentes? Okay, so be it. Great. Now we have item 8. Item 8 and 9 together.
Yeah, but
Good afternoon, council members. My name is David Summers from the Department of City Planning. And,
I'm Tim Framo with the Department of Transportation.
So on the from the January meeting, we were given somewhat of a research assignment, and we came back with a report on the for the My Figueroa Streetscape project. And at the last meeting where we delivered that report, we were given what I would consider the lab assignment, and we had several follow-up items that really were the result of the mayor's Figueroa stakeholder summit. And from that summit, there was a whole set of issues that were being requested for us to bring attention to and to work through with the Figueroa corridor stakeholders. And as a result of that, that request from the last Plum meeting, we submitted our report as far as the status on how we were following up with those items, and we can go item by item that was requested of us from the report. There was a request of us to quantify the actual expected delays as a result of the project, and that is in contrast to what was studied in the EIR, because we had assumed very conservatively that all of the commuters were going to remain on the corridor after the project was implemented, and an understanding that Figueroa was going to be operating at a different capacity. And so there's an understanding that, of course, with that, there is going to be some amount of trip diversion. So we applied a model that we had previously run, and with a revised traffic analysis, and we're able to demonstrate that, in fact, we were being very conservative in the environmental impact report, and the actual expected delays as a result of traffic diversion, as far as rebalancing, traffic would be rebalanced along parallel routes after the project would be implemented, that the delay would be substantially, we would predict that the delay would be substantially reduced from what we had originally anticipated. It would still be some delay increase as to how it operates today, but that it would be much less than what was evaluated in the environmental impact report. There was a second item.
So you assessed people diverting to corridors further west and further east?
That's correct.
Right. Mostly further east. The model looks at all the way to Broadway and all the streets in between, like Olive, Grand, Hill.
Grand goes the other direction, though.
The couplet, or Olive and Grand, Hill, Broadway, and the Flower as well.
Right, but Figueroa goes north, right?
Most of Figueroa within the study area is a two-way street, except for the downtown portion.
And a second aspect of that was also a request from us to spend more resources into marketing and education for the project. Once the project is implemented, or even prior to implementation, that we engage in a marketing campaign to notify commuters that are working downtown that there's going to be a construction project happening on Figueroa. That's their normal path of travel to work, and that there's going to be changes and disruptions during the construction period, and also after that. It's going to operate differently. So the marketing campaign would really highlight different ways to get to work. Also would really promote mode shifts into transit, the Silver Line, and especially the Silver Line has been pretty successful recently already, absorbing an increase of ridership. So we would promote that as far as the marketing campaign, and also other transit and routes that would be able to get people into downtown within the same expectation that they're currently traveling. Another aspect of that was education, so really focusing on a population around USC and downtown residents. On this cycle track is going to be a new facility that we've seen in Los Angeles. It's a facility that exists, a facility type that exists in many other cities, but it'll be the first one that's built in Los Angeles. So there's going to be some type of learning, social learning that'll take place as far as, what is the best operating practices. Like the bicyclist will really need to learn how to yield to pedestrians, especially where they're going to be crossing over the cycle track into the bus boarding platforms. So we're going to be focusing on that as part of this marketing and education campaign. We're actually going to apply to the Metro 110 Reinvestment Revenue Grant Program. The grant is due at the end of the month, so we're currently preparing an application for that, to do that marketing and education piece. And then Tim will talk about some of the other items that we followed up on.
So we also had several focus meetings with some of the concerned stakeholders that we had initially met with at the summit, the mayor's office, and CD9 and 14 put together. One of those meetings was with representatives from the film industry, and we discussed lane closures and the actual cycle track itself in terms of whether the separators we're installing could be removed for filming purposes, and we did discover that they are removable. So that was one of the main takeaways from that meeting. The other was to set up a quarterly meeting with those representatives from the film industry to continue the discussions from now until at least beyond when the project is implemented. Then we also had several focus meetings with other stakeholders, such as the auto dealerships, the Shamus Group representing the auto dealerships, of course, 2 meetings with Mr. Holter and his staff, a meeting with the owner of Chano's Drive-In, several meetings with USC staff, representing USC Transportation, Government Relations, and the Galen Center and the Coliseum. A lot of those discussions focused on special events and how we would tailor the operation of basically how we would handle circulation and how we would adapt that with the project. We talked about locations of bus stops and other particulars adjacent to those properties. And we also met with representatives of Exposition Park, all the museums, the Science Center, California African American Museum, Natural History Museum. Most of those discussions also focused on special events, but also in terms of the ingress and egress of school buses, in terms of their daily field trip activities which happen around the museum areas. And we talked about the ability to convert the bicycle lanes in those areas which are only painted to actually be an additional vehicular lane during large events, such as USC football games or other large events in the Expo Park area. So we had a number of those meetings, and I think they yielded very fruitful results.
And I would just close on the last item, that we'll be following up and convening a working group with including major stakeholders along the corridor that will help us define the metrics under which we're going to be evaluating the project's performance and success. So that's going to be direct feedback to us and establishing things like we're going to measure travel time, bicycle ridership, safety, economic performance data. These are all the things that we anticipate that we're going to be talking about. We're also going to have the stakeholders, weigh in on that and also be a partner in providing that data, because we know that we have that capacity along the corridor, especially with the business improvement district and some of the others. So we really look forward to moving forward with that process and again, that pretty much highlights the major kind of ask items and where we are currently in the process. And this is ongoing, and it's a fluid process. And but we hope that we've demonstrated that from the stakeholders and council offices and the mayor's office that they absolutely have the staff commitment to see this through and make sure this project is done right.
I also neglected to mention one of the items was to form a special events advisory group, which we're working with CD9 on establishing that to coordinate special events in the area, which in Hollywood already exists. This would be a similar group formed.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear from Council District 9, Paloma Perez McAvoy.
Good afternoon, council members. Paloma Perez McAvoy on behalf of Council District 9. First of all, I'd just like to express my excitement that we were not only going to have bicycle lanes, but equestrian lanes incorporated into my FIG. Just kidding, Councilman. In all honesty, I'd just like to thank city staff and the stakeholders along the Figueroa corridor for working very expeditiously and diligently to work out many of the concerns that have been cited and expressed with both short and long-term solutions. In the short term, there have been design changes that have been made to the project that allow for left turns, extended right turn pockets, without destroying the integrity of the project. Secondly, on the long term, we're going to, as staff already mentioned, we're going to be putting together a couple different committees. One of them will be a special events committee that will take place along the Figueroa corridor. As well, the film industry has also asked for a downtown film working group, which we'll be working with in conjunction with CD14. I must stress that this isn't the end of the road. There's still a lot of work to be done to ensure that this project is a success, and the stakeholders that you've been seeing for many weeks now will continue to be involved in the process to make sure that it's a viable project and a success in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. CD14.
Honorable Chair and committee members, Tanner Blackman, Office of Councilmember Jose Huizar, I thank you for taking up this issue today, especially in my boss's absence. He had to run to the hospital for his daughter, so he thanks you for moving forward today. As you folks well know, my boss is a huge supporter of innovative urban design projects to reimagine the public right-of-way and alter the way we think of our streets to accommodate all users, bicyclists, pedestrians, young and old, equestrians, everyone, in order to have a truly multimodal transportation network. Our office helped create the city's first parklets and bike corrals. We fought for implementation of bike lanes throughout the 14th District, and we're moving forward with the Broadway dress rehearsal to reclaim significant portions of the street for pedestrian uses in advance of the future LA streetcar road diet. Projects like these can help create a sense of place while also serving as economic development generators to help sustainably grow our local communities. Therefore, we're very happy that we have a lot of consensus now amongst the various stakeholders on the FIG corridor, and I want to thank the departments, both LADOT and planning, for their great work in helping bring everyone together, as well as the elected offices. We pitched in, but also CD9 played a huge role in the mayor in bringing everyone to the table. We had a MyFIG summit where we brought stakeholders from the entire corridor, and as the staff mentioned, lots of other ongoing meetings. Had some small design changes that helped assuage some folks' concerns, and have committed to ongoing working groups and task force, as were mentioned. So we're very happy with the results thus far, happy that this is moving forward, and ask you to receive and file the report back on the motion, as well as receive and file the CEQA appeal item in as much as it's been withdrawn. So thank you.
Thank you. Dominic, are you ready to come forward?
Council members, thank you. On April the 30th, I filed a letter that I believe was brought to your attention
advising that I would be withdrawing the appeal filed by the Seamus Auto Group and Mr. Holter on the EIR, item number 9, and we formally are withdrawing our appeal at this time. We do so because of some of the matters that were highlighted by the other two speakers, and that is the cooperation between your council office, CD14, CD9, and the mayor's office to work with the stakeholders and the property owners along Figueroa. Those folks aren't going anywhere. It's very important that that kind of cooperation continues, that this not be viewed as an off switch, but as a continuation, and that that same teamwork continue to work forward to make sure that a year from now we have a real critical analysis of what's been done, and if there needs to be fine-tuning, that the same attitude of cooperation continue. So we withdraw our appeal. We thank you for your time and consideration, and we hope this will be as successful a project for the property owners as it will be for everyone else that uses Figueroa. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rubalcaba, we want to thank you and your client for your cooperation and your commitment to work with all the stakeholders and to help us reach a resolution. And we share the hopes that also that this gets realized in the manner that's been projected. Sarah Walsh.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Sarah Walsh. I'm here today on behalf of the Motion Picture Association of America and our member companies, as well as my colleagues from the commercial producers and the Teamsters. As you just heard, we met several weeks ago with representatives from Film LA, DOT, Planning, the Mayor's Office, and Council Districts 9 and 14 to discuss filming under the new My Figueroa plan. At that meeting, DOT confirmed to us that closures for filming activity will be allowed in the buffered bike lanes, cycle tracks, and parking lanes, as well as regular traffic lanes along the corridor. As you heard, we also discussed the feasibility of installing rubberized cycle track barriers that are removable, which will make the full cycle track and the parking lane next to it available during filming. And since our meeting, DOT has confirmed that they will indeed be removable. And just generally, the loss of surface streets downtown, coupled with a number of the area's streetscaping projects, has severely limited the parking availability for motion picture production vehicles. We remain concerned that fewer and fewer streets downtown will be available for lane closures and essential staging equipment staging for filming. And so to that end, we're glad to be part of a working group to discuss these issues on an ongoing basis. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Aaron Alenta.
Good afternoon. I'm here representing the Figueroa Corridor Business Improvement District today. I'm here to thank everybody for their hard work, in particular Council District 9, Council District 14, and the Mayor's Office for helping to facilitate the additional stakeholder outreach that was really needed to move this project forward. And also thank you to DOT and Planning for their hard work during this past month, which I very much appreciated. During the last month, we worked out several technical issues that we ID'd and addressed during this outreach period. And because of this, we'll have a much better project moving forward. We also look forward to continuing to be involved on the advisory boards and continue to work with DOT on any issues that may arise in the future of this project. Thank you all very much.
Billy? Ms. Greer, always good to see you.
Council members, I'm here today representing the California Science Center and Exposition Park State Board, of which I am a member. And we wanted to express our deep appreciation to Council Member Price and to Paloma Perez McElvoy for their diligence and help in putting us into direct contact with city staff to sit down and discuss and work towards resolution of some of the issues we cared about. And we want to thank DOT and planning staff for their efforts. As this project proceeds, we are very hopeful that this dialogue will continue. And we were quite heartened to hear staff indicate that if there were to be a major problem or difficulty once the project is up and running, that we won't wait till 1 year down the road, but rather to the extent possible deal with it in real time. So we're looking forward to working with this, continuing to work with the city. Thanks.
Thank you. Eric Bruins.
Good afternoon, Eric Bruins, Los Angeles County Bicycle Coalition. I want to also express appreciation for everybody involved in the stakeholder group and for this committee for hearing this and hearing the overwhelming community support for this project. Really want to thank the Figueroa bid for really helping convene the stakeholders and getting everybody on board. They deserve credit for giving, basically conceiving this project at the beginning, getting it funded, and now seeing it through to completion. And so we really want to recognize that as well. These types of bikeways that we're able to build as part of this broader Complete Streets project is really the future. It's designed for people from 8 to 80 to be able to ride safely on our city streets, which is a really marvelous concept, and that we would like to see this expand, particularly as we look at other major streets in the city through the Great Streets Initiative. Thank you.
And saving the best for last, Mr. David Galaviz.
Thank you, Chairman Cedillo and Councilmember Englander. David Galaviz here representing USC, and we're here to join Councilmember Price and all the other long-term stakeholders along the Figueroa corridor and within Expo Park in support. Our concern over technical issues, logistics, and implementation have been addressed, and we look forward to continuing to work with City and all long-term stakeholders on continuing to develop the infrastructure connecting USC University Park, Expo Park with downtown Los Angeles. Finally, we want to thank the council offices involved, specifically Paloma Perez McAvoy, the Mayor's Office, the Planning Department, and Department of Transportation, for their leadership and their patience throughout this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, actually that concludes that item. So we do receive and file?
Yes, Councilman. It would be a receive and file on 8, and on the appeal, since it has been withdrawn, also receive and file.
Okay, awesome. We have no director's report, is that correct? And no additional public comment? Nope. Motion to adjourn?